David, let me just at this point sort of provide a little context for this, because I think it's really important so that we don't get bogged down in, period. So if you look at these recommendations, there's really two sets, notwithstanding this last one. The first one are these four strategic investment initiatives. And the second are essentially changing the way existing funds are allocated. So the second one would be taking the resources we have, current resources, more resources, and changing the way we allocate them. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't issues and policy questions there. I know some of you are concerned about the amount of data that's available to actually support linking outcomes to data. So that's something we obviously need to discuss. I'm more concerned about how we approach the first four, because those could theoretically, if we put additional resources into those, compete with the base funding, in particular the K-12 system, which I think we all recognize is inadequate already. We're in sort of a cut mode. We're cutting the school year. We're laying people off, and so I think it's real important to provide a context for that. And so what we're not asking the OEIB to do is to recommend how much, if any, new resources should be allocated to these new strategic investment areas. That's ultimately going to be decided by the Ways and Means Committee and by the legislature, with the GRB being the starting point for that. Because at the end of the day, we're not a revenue committee, and we're not a budget committee, we're an investment committee. And our purpose here is to essentially not get bogged down in that debate, but to basically say, regardless of how much money we have, what are the best strategic investments that could most effectively improve outcomes for early learners, could improve on-time high school graduation rate, could improve access to higher education. And what I'm hoping to do is then integrate the recommendations into my budget as a starting point. I recognize that if we don't have priorities, then we're going to basically revert back to the old debate about how much bulk money goes into a given budget, which is, to me, not where we want to end up. If we have a set of investments that this board says these are the 3 or 4 things in this order that would move the dial the most, at the end of the day, the legislature may decide, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to just pump up more money into the base funding. That's okay as long as we're willing to be accountable. Because we've set these 40-40-20 goals, and we have to ask ourselves, how best do we get there? So the setting of priorities gives us a context to have a different kind of education debate next session than we've had before. I think that's really critical. So I'm hoping that the conversation here can be focused less on how we're going to divide the pie, and we all want to make the pie bigger, but rather what are the priorities of these investments in terms of the outcomes that we're trying to